Shetland is the most northerly part of the UK, being well over 100 miles from the UK mainland. But very few know that this little island actually hosted one of the most memorable parkour events in Scottish history, with over 200 attendees and a total running cost of £18,000. But this event, despite being a massive achievement, was also the start of a short, swift, downward plummet for the Shetland parkour community. So let's look at the death of the UK's most northerly parkour community. The main man behind the Shetland parkour scene was Chris Wright, and his journey into the parkour world began when he was 15 years old in 2005, just after the release of Jump Britain. He trained regularly in Lerwick, but little did he know, just 13 miles away in Sandwick, another Chris Coles, had also started training parkour at the same time. Eventually they connected and started training regularly together until 2007, when Chris Wright slipped 3 discs in his back. Due to this, he chose to stop training for the time being, and in 2010, when he was ready to make his comeback, he, Chris and others started having discussions about setting up an official club to teach parkour to the youth of Shetland and Orkney. This group would go on to form Northern Focus. From the start, Chris and the other founders of Northern Focus decided that they wanted to run their classes in collaboration with the local council, as they felt this would provide them with a lot more benefits than if they were to run it independently. So on the 3rd of July 2010, the council invited up Chris Grant and Scott Houston from Glasgow Parkour Coaching to run some taster sessions and to see if parkour was actually worth getting involved with. Now, the sessions were very old school, with a lot of the focus being on strength, conditioning, and general high intensity movement. And although this put a lot of people off, it also brought a whole lot of newcomers into the sport. And after having seen the Glasgow coaches in action and seeing the impact that parkour had on the youth of Shetland, the council decided that they would certainly help bring parkour to Shetland. In 2011, Northern Focus became official, and they wasted no time in making an impact across Shetland and Orkney with parkour. They started up weekly classes and jams, and over the next 5 years took part in performances such as the Queen's Gold Baton and Ignition Movement. They also collaborated with Nature Scotland and also participated in a mental health fundraiser for Mind Your Head, which included bear or cat crawling around a loch for a day. In addition to classes, jams and performances, they also regularly travelled to the UK mainland and connected with other parkour hotspots in Scotland, such as Aberdeen, Inverness, Perth, Forres, Glasgow and Edinburgh. This meant that they also attended a lot of the Roots of Movement events. In no time at all, Shetland was officially on the map as a parkour hotspot in Scotland. In late 2011, the idea was broached about a Shetland parkour event, because despite Northern Focus travelling all over Scotland, none of the wider Scottish community ever actually visited them, which shouldn't come as a surprise really, because it takes a long time and a lot of money to get to Shetland from the mainland, and it's definitely not a place you can just pop over to for the day. But regardless of this, Northern Focus had spent that money and travelled that distance many times, and they felt it was time for people to come to them for a change. So they decided to hold a 4-day event in which the attendees would explore the whole of Shetland and take part in a whole load of different workshops. After reaching out to their contacts in the council, Young Scott, Aberdeen Parkour, Glasgow Parkour Coaching and Roots of Movement, the ball was officially rolling, and at the end of May 2012, the first instalment of the Shetland Parkour Experience took place. £3,000 of funding was put towards the first Shetland Parkour Experience, and although this may sound like a lot, it really wasn't. All of the coaches and leaders weren't able to be paid for the 4 days that they were coaching and hosting, nor were they being paid for the endless amount of planning and preparation that had taken place in the months leading up to it. But nevertheless, 80 people attended for all 4 days. The event ran from Friday to Monday, with the majority of people arriving on Thursday evening. Friday was the shortest day of SPI, running from 9 AM to 12 midday. This was to allow people to meet, get to know each other, and get familiar with their surroundings. Saturday was the longest day by far, as it started at 5 AM and ran well into the night. One of the most magical things about Shetland is the fact that there are certain times of the year where the sun just doesn't set, and you can pretty much get 23-24 hours of daylight. So naturally, Northern Focus took advantage of this. Saturday included early morning sessions, obviously, workshops throughout the day, and some night training to finish it all off. Sunday was a little more relaxed, running only from 9 AM to 9 PM, and Monday finished the whole event off with some tough strength challenges and team challenges. The Monday finished at about 5 PM as to allow everyone to get back to their ferry or plane in time. The workshops on the Saturday and Sunday included basics, creativity, placement, breaking jumps, yoga and stretching, and quadrupedal movement, which was a favourite of the Shetland community. All of these workshops were spread out across the island to truly give the attendees a feel for what it was like to train in Shetland, inside, in playgrounds, on rocky cliffs, and ruins. Truly unique. The second instalment of the Shetland Parkour experience ran the following year in 2013 and followed a fairly similar structure. However, this time Northern Focus had managed to raise £15,000 of funding. They were able to pay for 10 coaches, hire 3 halls, sort accommodation for visitors, and create event t-shirts. This time, over 120 people attended, some coming from as far as Germany, making it a huge improvement on the first Shetland Parkour experience. But unfortunately, this would be the last ever SPI. The Shetland community had reached its peak, and unbeknown to them, were about to hit a fast downward spiral. In late 2013, there were whispers about certain members of the Shetland parkour community moving away. And not just 1 or 2 people, pretty much all of the key figures and coaches were planning to leave Shetland very soon. Shetland is one of those places that's amazing to visit, but if you live there, everyone knows everyone, and eventually you have 2 options: stay on the same island forever and start a family, or leave. And these young freerunners and tracers wanted to get off the island. They'd had so much fun in their community, but they wanted to leave, they wanted to travel, they wanted to go to the UK mainland, they just wanted to get off their little condensed island. In addition to this, a third Shetland parkour experience just seemed too expensive and unachievable if it was to be bigger, better, and more expensive to run than the first 2 installments. And over the next few years, with no one willing to stay on the island or step up and lead the community, and one of their own tragically passing away, parkour ceased to exist on Shetland. But there may be hope for a revival. Isla Ramsey, a freerunner and coach who is currently based in Aberdeen, is originally from Shetland. For her uni course in early 2024, across the space of 4 weeks, she ran taster sessions to 84% of the primary schools in Shetland, engaging just under 600 pupils, all which received an overwhelming amount of positive feedback, mainly stating that they would love to have parkour back on the island again. So who knows, maybe sooner than expected, someone will step up and lead the Shetland community, building it back up, and maybe, just maybe, even holding a third SPI. Thank you so much for watching this video on the Shetland parkour experience and the death of parkour in Shetland. I hope you enjoyed, learnt something new, and maybe even reminisced about the good old days. A huge thank you to Chris Wright, Kyle Smith, and Isla Ramsey for helping me gather all the information I needed to make this documentary possible. Don't forget to support this channel by giving this video a like, sharing it around, and maybe even clicking that subscribe button and turning on the notification bell so you know when I post similar content to this. Join me next time to find out about the most unique parkour event ever held in Scotland. Ever. See you around.